This person writes in, I had the a privilege of attending the retreat at Garrison last month, which is a retreat that I taught in New York, and want to thank you and the Open Gates staff for facilitating such a deeply moving event. I seem to be on the edge of stepping into a deeper level of trusting, quote, what is, unquote, in seeing that divine will is what is. My thoughts and feelings may be in opposition, but something deep within knows that the happenings in life are not moved by my wants and desires. This is a person expressing exactly what I've been talking about in a much more succinct way. If you have anything to share that may address this deepening of trust, I would greatly appreciate any pointers or sharing on this topic. So, I'm responding more for the whole audience and not just this person, that there is a way of seeing that what's unfolding is the unfolding of the moment. And one way that we could talk about that is that the will of God or the will of the divine is exactly what's happening. And how do we know that? Because it's exactly what's happening. So this is one way of looking at it, that what is before us is the will of the moment. Now, where sometimes that gets sticky is in perception. So one person could say, this is what's happening. Another person could say, no, that's not what's happening. This is what's happening. And yet, 50 more people could say, well, this is how I see it. And each person sees how things are happening. And if a person's vision is overlaid with a lot of frameworks that shape how they perceive the moment, there's a lot more propensity to not see just the kind of actuality of what's playing out, like blow by blow, but rather their story, their narrative. It's very layered and sticky from their past experiences or their beliefs or their structures of thought that get overlaid on their perception that creates a whole narrative about what's happening that could be completely different than some other person's narrative that's, let's say, informed by a perspective or consciousness that's a lot more freed up from these overlays of concretizations of thinking mind and interpretations. And we all have these. We're all conditioned beings. We all perceive things in certain ways, or we all come from a certain set of experiences that we carry forward. Let's say, for example, you know a person, well, and you're good friends or family with them, and you carry a history, you carry a bank of knowledge of how they tend to respond in situations, how they tend to be. And so you have this thing that you carry forward and your sense of who they are. And it's difficult to extract ourselves from that. And it's not always even necessary, or sometimes it's not even wise to divorce ourselves from the acquired wisdom of experience that we've had, of people, of situations, of dynamics. It's valuable information. But when we're overly identified with self, we just kind of default to being ruled by all of those accumulated perceptions, and there's not a lot of space to see things new. I caught myself with this earlier today, in which I had tried to contact a person, believing it was in their best interest. And this is like 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And I was talking to someone today who was trying to contact the same person. And I said, oh, I don't know if you'll ever, I think I said, you'll never get a hold of them. And then later I said to the person, oh, I was mistaken. I shouldn't say never because you never know. But my experience is you can try and try and try, and there may not be a response. But you never know what the next moment will bring. We never do. And so I caught myself. But there is a way that when we're kind of operating first from a certain set of assumptions, we'll make conclusions that sometimes serve us well and sometimes don't serve us well. But the option of being more conscious is that we have more fresh gaze in the present moment to see the variables and to see the moment, and in a more fresh way, with a greater sense of spaciousness. Then we have a greater sense of choice, and there's freedom in that. I know somebody who wrote in earlier was interested in freedom, and there's freedom in that spacious perspective that just doesn't unconsciously, habitually concretize in certain conclusions. And so, coming back to this questioner that's developing this deeper level trust of what is, a lot of that happens when more perceptions are freed up from our perspectives, more of the overlays of constructs of thought about ourselves, about others, about life fall away. When a lot of our, let's say, triggers are seen through, or at least become more conscious of, so that they don't completely rule our behaviors. It's not always possible. Sometimes we're triggered, and that's simply the way it is. But the more we're conscious of those dynamics and are able to sense who and what we are that is not defined by the thought of ourselves that has been triggered, or the memories of ourself and circumstances where triggering happened, the more we sense who and what we are that's not defined by those circumstances, the more there is a kind of conscious awareness or more spaciousness to respond in new and fresh ways. And the more we're able to see things as they are, free of those overlays of perception. And so the deepening of perceiving what is, perceiving the moment more clearly in a more fresh way, comes from sensing who and what you are that is not defined by experience. Sensing who and what you are that's not defined by the experiencer. The identity is the experiencer. It's the you that is prior to that. The you that notices the identity of the experiencer taking hold, or the identification with experience or with a past experience, future desired experience taking hold. But the you that notices that is already expressing as this moment with a clear, pure awareness.